and welcome to Northwest Fireside Chat's fourth broadcast. My name is Leslie, and Kirsten should be coming on here any second now. We want to thank you for being here. There she is. Hi, Kirsten.
Hello.
Hello. And we do hope you enjoy the show. If you're catching us on the replay, thank you for taking the time to watch. A little bit of housekeeping. Remember, if you want to do Facebook comments, you need to enable StreamYard permissions, and that should be at the top of the group page. And we got a new little intro there, trying to fix the last one. But we got new music for that. So that was a bit of a challenge because I had to steal it off of a copyright-free song off of YouTube, and I couldn't find it. So
It turned out really good, though.
Not too bad. Not too bad. I gotta fix it. I've got to stretch it out still. So, but I'll fix that later. It worked this time.
Looks like Trudy just signed on. Hi, Trudy.
Hello, Pam's here. I can't see who all is here. I think you can see that better than I can. Let's see. Yeah, there's Trudy. Hello. Okay, so today's topic is living off grid. Now, this is a huge, huge topic, and it's going to require a whole bunch of research on your part if you're really thinking about doing this. We're not going to be able to go into all the intricacies about it, but we will post links to, resources. Got to do a little bit more, researching on, some of the decent links to give to you, but it's just not something that we're going to be able to go into, massive detail here. So keep an eye on the Facebook group page, or we'll put it on the YouTube description box later on. So
cool. Great.
So
yeah, there's actually a lot of things to consider with going off grid. If you never really kind of delve deeper into it than just the show, the off-grid living type shows, there's a lot more to consider than what folks might initially think about.
That was Trudy and Michael. Hello.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah. I guess really the first thing to do is, lose the romantic idea of living off grid. It sounds great and all, but as we delve into the rest of this,
yeah, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah. And for us older folks too, it's like, would I like to? Sure. Would I be able to? Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
I'll only do off grid if absolutely forced to by disaster.
Right. Yeah, I would like to avoid it. I always see people on the pages and they're like, oh, I totally want to be off grid and it'll be so great. And I'm like, have you washed your clothes by hand? Because I did as a child, and I can still feel the burns on my hands. I'm not really into it. So it sounds really romantic, but it's really a lot of work.
It does. Yeah, like here at home, we heat exclusively off wood, and just managing, the wood for the winter, that's work.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, and that's just one aspect.
Right.
So some things that we need to consider.
Right. Yeah, you definitely got to realize the task that you're about to undertake, because like you said, it is monumental. And either if you're going to do it by yourself, you need to understand the tools that you're going to need. You're going to need a lot more primitive tools. You're going to want chainsaws on hand. You're going to need, splitting awls. You're going to need a whole wealth of stuff that you probably hadn't even thought have to come with that off-grid lifestyle. Because going off-grid, when you think about what that fully encompasses, you're totally detaching from everything. Now, I'm not saying that means you need to detach from the internet necessarily, obviously, but you're thinking about things like not just the power grid itself, but you need to be disconnected from city or municipal water supplies and utilities like garbage services. So how are you going to handle your waste? All of that becomes very important. Going on septic, or you're going to have a compost toilet or an outhouse. So many considerations.
Yeah. And then just, personal safety as well. There's that whole layer in there. If you have any type of compromising conditions, how are you going to, how far out are you going? How are you going to get to, the doctors that you would need to do, or if something happened to you? It's a whole bunch of stuff to think about on that. So
I'm dealing with that with my parents, who my dad was in love with the idea of going off grid, retiring out in a very remote area in Idaho. And his nearest clinic is like 30 minutes away, and the nearest hospital is like an hour and a half away. And they're both dealing with considerable medical issues. And they hadn't really thought about how far out from medical they're going to be, or how far removed they are from family and friends. Those are all serious considerations. You can't just go off grid in a city. That's something that you need to think about, is that there are requirements, standard policies, or community
Mandates.
ordinances, ordinances or mandates that say that if you're residing within city limits, you have to be connected to city services. Or even if you live in county, you can build a home and you can be off grid, but you still need to pay to have those services brought up to the house so that the next owner can connect to them.
Right.
So you can't just be off grid in your little urban homestead, or your little suburban homestead, because that may not be allowed. So for everybody that's just watching and can't tell, I'm in my car, which so I can have, I am, and the kids are in the back, and they're getting very rare tablet time. So if I'm looking around, I'm not shifty. It's just habit. I can't sit in my car and not look around. So
that tactical brain is, you can't just
always. I can't be parked and not look around all the time. So I apologize. It looks
and I'm
distracting
looking around because I'm driving stuff here. So we're just all over the place.
We're all over the place. But yeah, so that's a consideration. You can't just unplug your little homestead in the middle of the city.
Yeah, and Michael is asking about off-grid repair costs. Valid point. If you're not handy and can manage those tasks, you got to find somebody to do it. And especially if you've stuck yourself way out in the middle of nowhere, getting somebody out there might be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, hopefully one of you is an electrical engineer of some kind. I'm having a crisis back here.
Go ahead, deal with crisis.
Always something. Okay, so I'll let you take up the next part then.
Welcome.
Don't overlook the obvious.
Right. And Pam goes, Starbucks again? Yeah, Starbucks again. That's her spot.
Free internet. It's free internet, and it's 3 minutes from my house.
It only costs you coffees and frappuccinos, and
And that's it. That's it.
But yeah, getting things fixed. Look into what are you going to be able to repair your solar if need be?
Right.
So, I don't know a lot of folks that go wind power, but there is that as well. I mean, that is a resource that some people do employ. But that's off-grid daycare costs.
Right.
Yeah, it's called the forest.
Yeah. It's called a mint pile and some compost in a garden. They stay busy all day in that playground. But yeah. Hydro. So, I mean, those are probably some of the most popular methods of generating your own electricity would be the wind, the solar, and the hydro. I do know some people will purposely, especially those that are have engineer minds or very mechanical. That's great. It's such a great solution to have one of you that's very handy that way, because you can explore your options. You can figure out what's going to best work for you, and you can have multiple facets in which to create energy. So you're not just, for us here where we're at, sun is really tough because you're only going to have that occasionally. And the day that I want to wash my socks is going to be the day that it's overcast. So it's nice to be able to have alternatives like wind, and to have hydro if you can, because you can increase the odds that you can keep those batteries charged. But like you said, repair costs, if you're not handy, you can get caught in the weeds pretty quick on those expenses.
Truth. Yeah, and the other thing too, though, as we have gone, get more advanced into things, solar panels are a lot better now than they used to be. So even on your overcast days, you're not getting what you imagine that you might, but they are getting better. But that's one of the big things that you do have to calculate as well, is how much power do you normally use? What would you be able to cut back to be able to live comfortably? Because, if you look at it right now, it's like, sometimes we've got, both computers going, the refrigerator, how much of that can you scale back, and how much is that going to require? And then, you've got to do the math on that to see realistically what you can generate to meet those needs that you determine that you can live with.
Right. Sorry, my phone temperature is getting really high. It says, so I'm going to unplug. and
Okay.
adjust a little bit.
Gotcha.
And technology, just got to roll with the times, you know? It's how it is.
But it's getting better. It's just getting so much better. Before, back in the day where you would be like, nope, no internet for you. There are options now.
Right, exactly. I just
like being in your car.
Like
using
hiding in your car with your children.
Oh,
Make it
God.
work. Make it work.
Okay. So
know how to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. I was
just gonna go into the next area, which is know how to stay warm, know how to heat your house and what you're going to need for that. Like you said, you're reliant solely on wood, and that's something that in our state is getting harder and harder to do. They don't want us to use any kind of wood heat at all. And on some areas, if it's not your sole source, if you have a secondary heat source, you can't even use a wood stove. So that's another consideration. What area are you living in? Do they allow you to use wood heat? Hopefully, if you're far enough out, you're looking at a county issue and not a urban growth boundary issue, like so many people. But even some small counties will not let you do it either, at least where we live.
And it's gotten to the point where we can't get our wood stove serviced beyond just a cleaning. So if there was something, if it needs to be re-bricked or anything like that, that's me doing it now.
Right. Nobody's able to do that?
It can't. Nope. The last time when I had it re-bricked, he said, good thing that you're doing this now, because next year we're not going to be able to do anything aside from cleaning your chimney.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I hadn't heard that. That's just.
Yep.
Wow.
And we can't even replace our wood bricks. Yep.
We can't get our wood stove bricks replaced anymore.
Nope. Can't do it.
Wow.
I'd have to do it myself.
That's just unreal. So they just fining people for doing that, or
no? They're not allowing the the wood stove technicians to do it. They would get the fine, but
wow,
they're just not allowed. And it's like, wow. Thanks, guys. My place was built in the 40s. It didn't have forced air heating or anything like that. It was a wood stove. Right. And the gripe is pollution. It's like, what?
Oh, you and we're going to go down a rabbit hole fast. I can feel it. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So on the edge, just on the edge.
I know. We had an hour and a half burn time earlier this morning. Try to get it out of our system. That's crazy.
It'll never get out of our system. So.
No. So that's a serious consideration though. Where are you going to live? You're going to have to research it, because there is nothing worse than seeing people that are wanting this self-reliant lifestyle move into an area that all of a sudden they realize they can't have more than 6 chickens. They can't have more than 1 hive. They can't do the things with their property, even though they're in a rural area that they thought they were going to be able to do. And 2-3 years later, they're pulling up stakes and they're leaving. Yeah. And they're experiencing financial loss because of that. And they thought they had well researched it, but you've got to really, really do your homework and do your due diligence. Oh, I can't talk. I'm so tired. Due diligence when it comes to these kinds of things, even off grid, making sure that you're going to be totally compliant and that you are going to mesh with the lifestyle. I know it's very romantic, like you said, and people want to do it, but it may be a little bit more than what you can take.
Yeah. And it may even consider, when you're talking about doing your due diligence to see what's allowed, that may even consider moving out of the state that you're in.
Right.
Just because the restrictions are so tight, and looking at other places that are a little more, leave me alone kind of friendly, in order to be able to do that. It may not even be possible where you're at. Right.
Are there any places like that anymore? I feel like everything is.
Idaho. Your parents live there.
Oh, not Idaho.
No, they don't. They don't get left alone there.
They're in northern Idaho, so that's probably a little bit better, but there's a lot of other considerations there. It's darn cold. If you're coming from Oregon, where we're at, If I can't have a 4-season garden, I'm not interested. You can get all up in my business. I'll just build a wall around my house.
Michael's asking multi-purpose wood stove versus heat only. What would you recommend? There's a lot of really nice. If you're talking about,
Yes,
you're talking
cooking
about
stoves.
like this, yeah, the actual hardcore old school cooking stoves.
Yeah.
Lehman's is a great resource. They're a company out in Pennsylvania, I believe, that that caters basically to the Amish. You can still get a decent, well insulated wood burning cook stove that you wouldn't want a wood stove in your house just for a heater, because people say those things just blow them out. But yeah, there are alternatives, and there's even some standalone, like small wood stove, heating stove sizes that have little ovens in them now. They've got like a soapstone
Yes.
outer casing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got a little, I've even seen inserts that you can put between in your heating pipe, your smokestack. That's a little stove,
Yes.
an oven.
Yep, an oven.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of goodies out there now. Again, thanks to the age that we live in, that that will make things a little more easier and more multi-purpose.
I always fantasized about one of those beautiful brick fireplaces inside a kitchen that's a cooking fireplace, that's got the swing arm, the cast iron swing arm that comes out. And I always wanted one of those, because if you like cast iron cooking, it's such a great way to be able to do that in your home. But the house needs to come with it, basically. And there's not a lot of houses out here west that come with those kinds of cook kitchens like they do on the East Coast. But one of those standalone cooking wood stoves are phenomenal. You'll spend a lot of money on them unless you find a refurbished older one.
I looked at them and knew they can be up to $7,000.
Yes.
Yeah, they're spendy, but worth it. And
totally worth it. Yeah.
Some of them heat water, which is true. I've seen people that they'll take like copper tubing and wrap it around the stack and have it run to like a water heater thing. So just all sorts of stuff that you can do with wood heat. I just love it. It's so versatile. But it is work. So stalling out a little bit there.
Right. Yeah, and as long as you have a renewable energy source to keep it fueled, is that me that's doing that, or are you?
You're stalling a little bit.
The internet cutting out.
You're back. It could be your phone heating up too, but
okay.
But I see you
now. So I unplugged it, so I think I'm just gonna keep an eye on the power. It said, fit a slow insulate. Yeah, insulation is huge. I think that, like we were talking about earlier today, staying cool off grid is one thing, because you can often open up the house early morning, get it cooled down, shut it all up in the afternoon, get your shades and your curtains drawn. You can kind of stay relatively comfortable until the temperature's outside cool, and you can open up the house again. But when it's cold, it's just bitter cold, and it can be very hard to stay alive. You don't want to live in certain parts of this country if you don't have a heat source. It would not bode well for you.
While extreme heat can be kind of a bummer, extreme cold can kill you. That's just the difference between the two. So a lot of people, if have investigated going subterranean homes, partially exposed, which is great for your insulation. And I'd probably do that if I was out in Montana. I'd go underground a bit. Be the mole people, just because of temperature regulation of the earth. It's just so much better.
Right. If not, insulate. Spend the money on insulation. Good insulation, good windows, good doors, and help keep it as draft free as possible, and it'll help pay for itself. And a lot of people, I've heard people touting they prefer wool. I don't know how much more expensive that is for insulation. I don't know what the R factor of wool is. I would wonder about that. But I've seen just these baffles like the Corning pink, but they're wool.
And
Right.
people with any kind of sensitivities or anything like that, it's really good for that.
Looks like I stalled out again. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. It just, my screen froze. So,
Spray foam or fiberglass? Yeah, you know what? I'd love to just do complete spray foam because it doesn't settle.
uh-huh.
Uh, I don't have that option right now. But yeah, spray foam would be great. It would just make sure that whatever you do for your wiring, make sure you have conduit. So if you have to do, pull a bad run, if you've got to rewire, you ain't going to get it through the spray foam. So,
Yeah, it's true.
so you're going to have to make sure you have conduit laid out for your
Yeah.
electrical in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, that my dad did some spray foam in his new house, I believe, and he said it was amazing. So much so that I actually did it in another home, and then when he moved to Idaho and built his new home, he was just going to buy the machine to do it because nobody there where he's at all in his area had the ability to do it. So,
Wow.
which is surprising because you would think in such a cold environment, folks would want to do it, but
Sure.
yeah, I don't know, but definitely worth doing if you can financially afford it.
Right.
I don't know about the wool. I guess when I hear natural fibers like that, it sounds really good, but I wonder what it's going to do for the critters. I don't know if anything's
What do you
going
mean
to
for
want
the
to live in
critters?
the walls. Yeah, if anything tries to get into the walls, they're like, oh, this is wool. This is so nice. Wool,
Yeah,
fiberglass.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Rats will eat through fiberglass. They'll make a nest out of that. So you can guarantee. When I was having my rat problem recently, found a nest of fiberglass. I'm like,
of course they would love it.
yes, rotten little things.
Okay, so what is the next point we've got?
We were current technology. Sorry, we're a little scattered here today. It's been a rough week for both of us.
It's been a rough couple weeks. Well, it's been a rough 2020. Let's just say for everybody, it's been a rough, weird, wonky year.
Yeah, but this week has really kind of kicked up for both of us. We aren't as prepared as we'd like to be, but
right.
We'll get through it. So technology-wise, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Solar panels being a lot more efficient nowadays. I've seen great, like you were talking about hydro. If you're near a stream or anything like that, I've seen great little paddle wheels, small.
Yes.
Small size that can generate electricity for your house.
There's rebates too. I don't know if folks want to think much about that, but if you're going to go explore this lifestyle, you should explore what kind of rebates are available or what kind of incentives there are to use those kinds of technology to help alternatively power your home, because there are programs for that. So even if you want to be on grid but augment your power in the city, there's a lot of rebate. We have eWeb here and EPUD, PPNL. They all have rebates for alternative energy. They even had one that they tried to sell me on, which was they bought the panels and I would pay them back over X amount of years. And the more I started to look into it, the more it actually was not a very good deal.
Really?
I ended up buying the panel. Yeah, it was, you have to really kind of read the fine print and sit down with a pen and paper and scratch out what the costs are going to be to you and the savings. I don't want to go off grid just for the sake of saying I'm off grid. I'd like to be able to save some money and simplify my life, or live in a better way, be more self-sufficient. But I don't mind being hooked up to the grid at all, because I like when I flip a switch, light comes on. I like that. And I like not having to worry about managing my power sources. However, in an emergency, I want power backups. I want all my self-reliant ways to continue with as little a bump as possible. So looking at those rebates can definitely help you be able to maybe make that transition in an emergency and in a way that's financially feasible.
Yeah. And other things that we have currently, composting toilets. Nobody likes to talk about the poo situation, but you do. The whole composting toilet situation has just gotten so much better, even as opposed to what it used to be. I mean, it's not a 5-gallon bucket anymore.
No, with some sawdust and some I forget what else you threw in there. Sawdust and lime or something. I
Bleach,
don't remember.
yeah, lime. You could, sawdust and
Yeah,
lime, or
yeah,
it's not that anymore. Although there are people that still do that, and
right.
it can be managed very well. But
Hmm.
that's not what you're stuck with. Again,
Yeah,
though, it's gonna be expensive. Uh, I'm on a septic tank, and I wanted to get off of it so bad, so bad. And I looked into some of the really ultra deluxe composting toilets that like zero odor, and again, we're thousands,
yes,
$5,000-$6,000, and it's like,
yeah,
geez. I mean, if you're gonna do it and try it, if you've got the means to be upscale about it, hey, go for it. If you're
right.
down for that, but you can still do it on a budget, but realize that if you're used to certain conveniences, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to figure in how much it's going to cost to pump that septic. And
Mm-hmm.
so you could be off grid, but the problem is you can I have my own septic system, but every few years I have to have that pumped, and that runs me a couple $1,000s. The baffles
Really?
or whatever just got replaced, and that was, 20 or 40 years old. I don't know how. They're original to the septic, which was put in like 1976, and they worked well until they didn't work. So they lasted a long time. If you're savvy, you can hop down in there and you can swap them out yourself. It was one of those chores where I said to my husband, let's just pay the dude to do it. He's got the
Yeah.
Tyvek suit and the wellies. Let's send him in and let him do it and get
Yeah.
it replaced. So if you add up what that's going to run you,
Mm-hmm.
$3,000-$4,000, depending on what kind of maintenance you're having done, it may be an 8-year investment to get the nicer composting toilet. But past those 8 years, if that toilet has that longevity, that could be a really smart investment to get you
Yeah.
off a septic system.
True. That is true. Geothermal heating and cooling, would you recommend? Yeah, if you can afford it, absolutely.
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I have a geothermal heating and air conditioning system,
please
and I
talk.
so recommend it. Here's
Please
the
talk.
thing, though.
Help you do this one.
Yeah.
What's she want?
I'm trying to get Batman up there.
Oh, honey, I can't help you with your Batman game. I'm sorry. Figure it out, son. Be a problem solver. Okay. So I have it. I love it. But here's the thing. It can run you, this is probably about 10 years it got put in. So it probably retail would be about 30 to 35,000 to have that geothermal system put in.
Mommy,
Because
mine is not working.
okay, I'm not going to help you anymore, guys. You're on your own. Anyways, it can run you anywhere from 35,000 to have that put in, because they have to excavate a large amount of land to lay down the coils for it to do the heating and the cooling. And then you also have the air conditioning unit, and the heating and air HVAC guys cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So having the equipment, it's really only about $15,000 in materials to have done. If you can hook it up yourself, or you have a pal that does HVAC, they can give you a discounted. The mom snap. Stop. Hey, they can give you the discount on the HVAC system.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, guys. This is the problem with children. They chime in when you least expect it, but they're adorable.
It's all
But
good.
anyways,
They're wonderful.
it is so good because we use next to nothing on power to keep our house hot and cool. Now, it doesn't get super hot and it doesn't get super cool like you would with a wood stove. Of course, nothing beats that kind of deep bone heat that you get with the wood heat. But it is so nice to have something that uses a nominal amount of energy.
Sure.
My brother is HVAC certified, so we were able to spare a lot of expense, my parents, when they put that in. So it ran my dad about $15,000 to put in the system. It's not necessarily something that's going to save you a lot in the long run, but it is kind of a very nice low energy way to keep your house comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you brought up an interesting point too, that, if you know of somebody, the off-grid community, especially if you're in any close proximity to them, that's just such a great resource, is going to be other off-gridders. Getting into message boards and things like that. While you're in your homework phase of doing that, there's just a wealth of information. And then, the bartering and the aspect of that community as well. It's
Right.
big. It's just huge.
Right. And you can do your own geothermal. That's the thing. You will find next to nothing like nothing online about how to put it on there, because the HVAC guys want you to pay them 30 grand to install that system.
Yeah,
They don't
true.
want you doing it yourself, but you can do it. If you're electrical savvy, mechanically savvy, you can get all the parts that you need for your own system and put it in for 15 grand. However, I need power to run the system. It takes a nominal amount of power as opposed to a conventional heating and cooling system that's electric based. But it's definitely worth it. I recommend it. I really love it.
Yeah. Yep. I wish, but no, not gonna happen. Not
I get so excited when people ask me about that. Yes, let's talk. But woo, what an investment.
Location. I think we're at location.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. This is essential. Chosen location, suitable soil and climate. That is so true. You're going to be off grid. It's going to require you to be a ways out of town. That's for sure. So what a great opportunity to grow a bigger garden.
Mm-hmm.
I have to snap my fingers at them again.
Yeah, turn around, get them in the mom eye. You got the eyebrow too. Good.
I've got them right in the rear view mirror, so I just do this to them.
There you go.
They're so good.
And what renewable energy is available in your location? I mean, are you getting property that's got a lot of wood that you're going to be able to, replant and replenish to harvest again? Do you have a river that you can utilize?
Right.
So
yeah. And I know a lot of folks will buy their property before they hit retirement. They'll start buying their property 5-10 years before they go into retirement. So if you found a great place that has a little bit of flat land that you can build the house and you can grow a garden, and maybe it's got a little creek that runs year round, that's great. And it doesn't have any renewable wood on it, or not very much. Well, now's your opportunity 5-10 years from retirement to start planting those trees now, because most counties now offer native plant sales, and those native plant sales are done usually pre-order in the winter time. Then you pick them up in around February or March, and you can get bare root hardwood trees. You can get your softwood trees, or your maples, things that are not as hardwood as, say, an oak, for example, or oak's a good one, cherry, whatever you got. Now's the time to plant those, and you get those for $1 to $3 a piece, bare root, and then stick those things in the ground come spring, and you're already starting to plan sequentially for having timber that's ready, and you just keep doing that, and it will be a smart investment in the future.
Yeah.
So when you're ready to go off grid.
Yeah, and realize your growing times, your oaks.
Yes.
Slow grower. Very
slow grower. Yeah, you can. If you want something short term, you can always think about willow, but it's going to burn real short, real fast. So
don't poplars grow pretty quick? But but another burning quickly type of thing. But
right.
Just in terms of, hey, get it in and get it growing fast.
Yep. Get it started, because even a 5 or 10 year oak, if you get enough of those planted, that's a nice little amount of wood. You're gonna easily be able to use a small chainsaw to cut it down and to split it somewhat easily. So you just need to have the land to plant enough of those every year so that you've got enough timber coming your way. But that's only if you want your own. You can still go out and usually find firewood for sale.
Yeah, exactly. Or get a permit. You can get a permit to do it. But again, that's what we do is we just pay to have it dropped off in our driveway, and we stack it.
Right.
If I had to go out and actually get it, I think I would have an HVAC system put in the house.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that kind of time to go out and harvest even stuff that's already down. It wouldn't happen.
Right.
It just would not happen. So I barely have time just to get to the grocery store and, let alone, cut 4 cords of wood for the winter.
Right. I worry about a snag coming down on you in the middle of the winter when you're out there by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be good times? I have no dreams of being a logger. Nope. I do what I have to do because it has to be done. That's about it. But yeah, so picking that location is key, like you said.
Yeah.
And preparing the property, especially if it's a property you're waiting to transition to until retirement. Choose wisely. Think about, like you said, the soil, the rainfall, the sun.
Yep. And like you said, what is allowed, what is not allowed, and it's sad that we have to think about those things, but you do. Right. Because especially if you're going into this and you're taking everything that you've got, I mean, and it's getting down to your life savings, you may be absolutely stuck and not be able to readjust and leave. So think about that as well. You know, be really careful about where you're going.
Right.
So, you know.
Okay.
Common mistakes.
Yeah, let's switch to common mistakes. Just eyeballing my notes, the notes that you wrote, not my notes, your notes. You do such a good job of organizing all this. I just show up and snap my fingers at the kids.
You do more than that. Just don't even. So, not knowing enough about power systems. We touched a little bit on that, but
right.
What are you selecting, and can you maintain it?
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the most common overlooked thing that I see when I'm looking at the forums. Is you can see people time and time again complaining about two things: maintenance costs or issues surrounding it, like a breakdown, and then a system that's not big enough to handle their needs. They didn't do their research, or they didn't think ahead. Like, it will handle your freezer for now, but what happens when you want to add an additional freezer just for processing game? They don't think about those small little draws that they're going to have, or running just a fan to circulate the air in the morning. They don't. They just, every little thing has to be planned right down to the actual appliance itself, what your power needs are going to be, and planning accordingly. And that's the two biggest things I hear.
Yeah, and the technology-wise, I mean, there are appliances have gotten more efficient. I mean, we're actually very lucky for that. The efficiency levels are really, really high, so it's you can stretch it farther, in terms of what your need is and what you're going to draw. So,
what are your views on propane being or natural gas being an on-grid, off-grid topic? Off-gridders get really heated about, if you're using propane, you're not off-grid. But to me, it's like saying you're using a wood fuel to heat your home, so you're not off-grid. But they're saying, well, I make it there on the homestead. So what are your thoughts?
It's the thing for me is, it's not a contest. This really isn't a contest. If I don't have a line that's directly plugged into my house, then I'm friggin' off-grid.
Amen.
That's just it. Does a truck come in and fill up my propane tank? Sure. But it's still, you're not directly wired into some, big conglomerate. So yeah, I think it's off grid. The people that want to nitpick at that, purists can be a real pain in the butt sometimes, but I just, do you boo.
I like that. That needs to be on a bumper sticker or something. You do you, boo.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Does it work for you? Why it's not a contest. You don't have to make anybody else happy.
Right.
And if it's a level that you can tolerate too. I mean, you may be in that position of not being able to do everything that it would need to do to go out and into the forest and get your wood. You may not be capable of that, but you can still get by. And if if you got propane, you can still do all the other things, work in your garden and things like that. And that's whatever makes you happy.
Right.
And it just, I sometimes, the online community, that's an off-grid that I want to do.
We are exploring adding a propane tank, because natural gas is not something we're able to get it out at our place, obviously. But so we've been exploring the size of tank that we're going to need, and doing like a partial in-ground tank. Now that the now that equipment has gotten so much better, they're able
Yeah.
to partially bury or almost fully bury propane tanks now. So that for homes,
Mhm.
smaller ones, which is not
Yeah.
something that 4 years ago when I looked at was an option.
Right.
So at least in my area, it wasn't. So
Right.
yeah, I think that having the flexibility, you know, having had these kids so small, there were times that the power would go out and I'd have no way to cook supper for them. And now they're older, they can have a sandwich and whatnot. But when they're real little, it was not being able to cook a hot meal was a really big deal
Sure.
without. And people say, well, use your barbecue outside or, you know, go out and cook. That's really great. You're obviously not in Oregon when the power goes out because it's really crappy. And
Yeah.
I don't really want to be
It went
standing
out
out
for
in
a
crappy.
reason.
Yeah, I don't want to be standing out in crappy weather with my 2 infants while I'm cooking on a barbecue.
Yeah.
So the having a propane for us has been really kind of paramount. Now the kids are getting older and it is less of a push, but it is still a consideration, something that we are working toward, like you said, a long-term goal because of that. And so many appliances now are compatible with that kind of alternative fuel source. So we're really lucky in this day and age.
What we did here was, you know, being from California, I'm used to natural gas, and moving up here and having to cook with electric, I was just about ready to scream. You know, but not being able to go from high heat to simmer like that,
Yeah.
it made me angry. So we got a propane stove, and
Yes.
you know what we do is I've got 50-pound tanks, 2 of them. I can manually take them and have them filled up and just rotate those tanks. I don't have a big monster tank in yet because that's laying a cement pad and, you know, and I can shop for my propane prices taking the tanks. Now, I'm not going to be able to do that for another 20 years. You know, there's going to come a point where I'm not going to want to, you know, heft those tanks, and I'm going to have to think about getting a pad poured and have a tank put on it.
Right.
But that ain't today.
Right.
But it is nice. I do like having it. Our wood stove is big enough. It's got a big, huge surface area on it. So before, when the power went out and it didn't have electric, we did cook off the wood stove, and that's another skill, cooking off your wood stove. If you're just
we have childhood memories of that, cooking on the wood stove. So yeah, I do like that. I wouldn't want to do it every day though.
No, absolutely. And then Trudy's saying there's also switch on propane hot water. You mean switching the systems over from electric to propane?
I believe so.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that, but that would be kind of interesting. We did have a T put in it because the line that runs into the kitchen, kind of halfway, they put a T in it to go underneath the house to do heat at some point. So we'd be able to just branch off of that. You know, they were at least good enough to make that suggestion that we could do that.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely. But okay. And where are we?
It is so we're gonna post some educational stuff this afternoon when we get back and we get plugged into the internet. We'll put some links up on the web page, which should be a ticker banner coming across occasionally that will show you the website. And it'll also be listed at the end of the show, but I would head over to the website. We'll get some resources posted up for maybe some off-grid things to consider. But the unrealistic idea of an off-grid homestead.
What's an unrealistic?
Yeah, the unrealistic, learning what you don't know about homesteading and being self-reliant, like how to hunt, fish, forage, preserve, raise animals, things like that. Being off-grid, you know, being off-grid puts you further out puts you further away from food sources. Further away from food sources means in a storm or detrimental weather or something. My parents had both the roads to their house wash out, and one took about 6 months to repair, and the other one is still being repaired about a year and a half later. These are major roads, so they're isolated for a period of time up on the mountain. Those are things to consider. There's no going to the grocery store in that way. Right. So how self-reliant do you want to be? How self-reliant do you think you should be?
Yeah, watching the there was a show on I think it was History Channel or whatever, but the you know, living in Alaska, kind of stuff, the people that were just truly, truly, truly off grid.
Right.
And, many of them even getting older were saying, you know what, we're not going to be able to do this much longer. And unlike, the Inuits, just, the natives that were there, I mean, they have the community, once their elders start getting to that point, they're taken care of. But even them that have been doing this 4 generations, there comes a time when they've got to pull back and not do that anymore because it is such hard work. But at least they have the infrastructure and the social system to be able to take care of their elders, and they do that. Where us just going out and venturing into it, that's something you got to consider too. What happens when you get to the point where you just won't be able to do it anymore?
Or you can't lift those propane tanks.
Right.
Because there's no truck coming. Yeah. You have to go in and fill up your propane tanks.
Right.
There was a show like that where it was based on the rail, the rail that goes up to Alaska, and how some of those people in those very northern, it was not Life Below Zero, but it was similar to it. And it was an elderly couple that had lived in very remote northern Alaska for decades, and their son was an attorney or something. He lived down in the lower 48, and they're really just trying every year to make it on their own and deal with how do you, when you're 75 or 85, get the snow load off your roof? That's a consideration. How are you going to lift the propane tanks on and off of the snowmobile? Right? These are very extreme off-grid, mind you. This is not the normal off-grid situation that people think of, but you still have very big obstacles that you need to overcome when you're living off-grid, and you need to have a very factual talk with yourself about what you can physically handle, financially handle, mechanically handle. Those are all huge considerations. And I don't want to discourage anybody from the idea of it, but I do want people, I think, like you do, to be more realistic in their approach to it.
Absolutely. Well, and it's like myself. I mean, I don't have kids. So, and it's getting to, I'm the end of my family per se. So even if I were younger and living off grid, there would have to become a time where I'd have to go back on. There would be no option. And it's something that we do have to, talk with. I mean, we hate to face our own mortality and our own limitations as we get older and sicker and things like that. But these things will happen. And if you don't have that system or a structure to be able to carry you through till your end days, you may have to go back on grid. Do you have a plan for that?
And, when you talk about off-grid communities, we in Oregon have several actually off-grid communities that people can kind of decide. With that, I think in the ones that I've looked at for educational purposes, they've been a bit, I don't know, cultish isn't the word.
Just say it.
Commune type off-grid where, these are our dungarees now, Bill. That's what it reminds me of. So,
can I wear the dungarees today, Susie?
Yeah, it's a bit like that. But there are some in some states that are very community oriented, that are maybe a little bit, you could probably find one that aligns more with, let's say, your values. That might be a good way to say that. So I have a lot of guns, I'm not gonna lie. And I would not be welcome in about 100% of the ones that I've researched here. And given my former profession, these days I would probably be run out of town. Eco village, let's just say I'd be run out of the eco village with flaming pitchforks. So you have to do your research and figure out which ones are going to kind of align with you. But there are some communities that are very appealing to people that are in the older crowd, because they can live that off-grid lifestyle and they can have the support of a community to help them as they transition. So that might be a good alternative for some folks. Yeah.
Pam, for those that don't know, is my better half, and has died once and almost died a couple of times. So it's tough. I mean, I know sometimes she feels bad, even just doing stuff around our, measly acre and a half. You can't help with everything. It's just not possible. And even I mean, now what I'm facing, I mean, I'm nowhere near off grid, but I'm still pretty darn rural. And
Yeah.
right now I'm planning, there's, one younger gal that I work with, and kind of, planning for my end days, because I don't have kids, to, maybe, hey, if you do just some of the basics towards the end of my life for me, like help me with the grocery shopping, things like that, boom, I'm going to will my house to you.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
so that's an option too, that some folks that might be older, and you might have something that you can barter with, so you can stay as off grid as possible. I've made the promise to her. It's like, you won't have to do anything medical. There won't be sponge baths for Leslie, but because, man, no house is worth that. but
Ah,
but things like, going to the grocery store, maybe a drive to the doctor if need be, bringing the wood in, things like that. So, kind of realize that what you're building in your off-grid property, it might be an asset that you can bargain with.
right.
So,
Yeah. Or you might be able to subdivide a property, like what my grandmother did with my parents, is she divided her property off to a couple acres to my parents, and so that way she would have somebody to help them as they grew older. And that was the idea with my parents, is too, we moved into, when my grandmother passed away, we moved into that house and remodeled it, and to care for my parents, and they just decided, we want to go be in Idaho. So, but the house is set up so that we can always have that person next door, which
right.
could be a real huge, you're just creating your own community in your own way.
Yeah, you've got to think outside, and I hate the term. God, I hate the term. It's so corporate, but think outside the box. You got to get creative. Yeah, you've got to get creative with your planning. It's just essential. Aside from being educated in what you're doing, be creative in what you're doing, because those two things are going to be just the cornerstone of your being able to either make it or have to run away with your tail between your legs and go, I can't do it.
Right.
So being realistic is the big key.
Right. So true.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think we're darn near at the end, aren't we?
We're getting there.
We didn't get to do our homework well enough, so we're.
Yeah, you had a really good suggestion though. Is if you are really tinkering with the idea of going off grid, why don't you just cut off your services for a weekend? Cut off your services for a weekend. See where you're at. That's good to do for preparedness sake occasionally, and just to test things and see where you're at different times of the year. But also just to kind of see in a few days what your power needs are, and the things that you can make do without, and the things that you can't, and write those down. Think about those appliances, what the power source needs are, and approach it from that way. And you'll learn real quick whether or not you're
set up
suited for it. Yeah, I just washing clothes by hands as a kid. I just knew that I wanted to be connected to power, if at all possible.
And the thing is, because again, mentioning Lehman's, because I love their stuff, and they, catering to the Amish. So one of those crank agitator washers.
Yeah.
They're cool and they work well. You know how expensive they are?
Yes.
For something that's got no machinery, no electronics. I'm like, because I wanted to get one for those times when we do lose power here.
Right.
And it's like, my God, I can't remember what it was, but I think it was like a couple of grand.
Yeah, it's a couple $1,000s. I'm not a hipster prepper or homesteader. I am a frugal, everyday, normal person, and I'm just not going to invest that much money to save myself a couple pennies in laundry bills. I'm just not going to. It would be great, but I don't have the. I mean, you can get so caught up in the off-grid lifestyle that you literally are spending thousands and thousands of dollars just to do one small portion of the off-grid life. You have to really decide where you want to spend those dollars. Is it in the energy, or is it in conveniences and comforts? It can get caught in the weeds real quick.
Yeah, Adrian's saying to make one. Yeah, and I've seen some plans for that. Someone took a 55-gallon drum and took their arc welder and cut it in half. I don't have an arc welder.
I have one. We can make one now.
We can? You want to make
Yeah,
a
I can
manual
weld. Not
Can
really. I don't really want to. Yeah, I can weld. But I really don't want to. But here's the thing. Just because I've got 5 million other things to do, and my other half is uninterested in any of this. If you have a good partner that wants to explore this with you, they're going to be worth their weight in gold. Especially when they're the ideas person. They've got these great ideas, and they're able to engineer them and implement them and maintain them. Then yeah, it's.
And that's the type of person that's really going to be able to do this, succeed at it, and do it without breaking the bank. I mean, you can do off-grid cheaply if you know what you're doing. If you don't, you're gonna pay.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
And a lot of the folks that are kind of big, and I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, that are like big in the off-gridding circle, that have just these huge followings, they've just invested a buttload of money into the beginning, into their off-grid lifestyle. They just threw a bunch of money at it and bought this and bought that and bought all the things, and that's really great, but that's just a very nominal amount of society. Most of us are shoestring, bootstrap kind of homesteaders. Yeah.
And it's just it's, and again too, if you're the type of the person that has to throw money at it to get those things, you're probably not the type of person that's going to be able to fix it either.
Yeah, they're the ones that are always complaining on the forum, I spent so much money on fixing this thing. Yeah.
Well, gee, you don't want to go down in the weeds with them, but it's like, well, gee, you're not much of an off-gridder, are you, huh?
Yeah. Well, and I always feel so bad. I feel so bad for some of these women, because I think there is a real pull to go back to nature, go back to simplicity, even though truly living an off-grid lifestyle or even a homesteading style life, there's nothing simple about it. It's a tremendous amount of work all the time. And to do it by yourself, there's a lot of men and women that really want to go at it their own because life dictates that, or because that's just how they want it. And it is a tremendous amount of work for just one person. There's a reason why we have family units, and there's a reason why we live in villages. We're designed to have clans and tribes and villages, because it helps to spread the burden of work for survival across many. And that's just
look at the indigenous communities and how they operate and work with their structure, and that's all of it right there.
Right.
You compare contrast between our modern lifestyles and those of us that are not part of that type of social structure, and the differences are just glaring. We wouldn't make it. We just wouldn't make it, most of us. So
modern man is differently wired these days. So but I would venture to say that most people that are exploring the off-grid life want either to totally get away from all of human society, or they want some sort of form of what they imagine to be simplified life.
And the other thing is too, why are you doing it? Why are you wanting to go off-grid? Are you throw your hands up in the air, it's like, screw people? You're probably,
it's an election year, I'm out of here.
I'm gone. What's your motivation for doing it? Because if you're just to throw your hands up in the air, I'm ticked off and I don't want to live around anybody, it's probably not the best headspace to go about it. It's not an escape. It's something that you need to go towards for very different reasons than just, I'm tired of people.
Right.
When I got into my I'm tired of people mode, I just moved to someplace a little more remote, not out in the middle of nowhere. Just don't be reactionary about it. That goes along too with the romantic idea. I want to do it because it's just back to nature. No, no.
You're not going to be running through the forest barefoot picking mushrooms all year long in fair weather. It's just not going to happen. Nope. You're gonna be doing that when you're exhausted because there's too much work to get done.
Yeah, you're going to lay in the field and want to cover dirt over yourself and just stay there.
Right? You know, you can also rent a lot of rustic cabins for a weekend or for a week or for a month and see
You
how
need
it's
to
going to
decompress.
fare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you need to decompress, but you know, taking the time to examine, you know, why you're doing this, how you're going to do it, the planning portion of it is probably just as arduous as actually doing it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of forums out there that folks need to be exploring. Just
Mhm.
don't make a rash decision. Don't sell everything one day and buy this little chunk of land in the middle of the nowhere because you were inspired by, you know, Life Below Zero, which I love that show. And it's really easy to get swept away in that kind of stuff. But, you know, you've really got to approach this like any financial decision that you're about to make, because it is going to be a big financial decision.
Yeah, if you just go all out, you know, if you throw all of your chips in and you make a mistake, it could be disastrous for you.
Yeah.
So think
Yeah.
before you
Very
do
true.
it. So
Yep.
So we're coming up on an hour now, and I'm sure you want to get
Yep.
out of that car. And you know, we haven't even really talked about what we want to do next round, or exactly when that's going to be. So if you've got some ideas of what you'd like us maybe to talk about next, you know, toss those ideas out. And then if we don't hear from you, then we'll think of something. Just throw it at you.
Yeah, we'll come up with one fail for sure, but it would be nice to get some input to see what folks
Yeah.
want to hear us chit chat about. Anything except for current events.
Yeah.
So I don't
No.
want to talk about that.
No.
But I'm more than happy to talk gardening or homesteading or what's going on. Yeah.
So. All right. Well, so until next time, I mean, you know, keep an eye on the Facebook page, Facebook group. We'll definitely be putting up. Probably be talking about you. You're going to be gone for a while, so we're going to have a
I'm
little
heading out.
Yeah.
I'm leaving next week. Leaving the old man to manage the homestead, and hopefully he doesn't kill anything while I'm gone. But yeah, I'll be gone for about 2 weeks. Kids and I are heading out for an adventure. We're heading out to Colorado, and we're gonna hit a whole slew of states in between here and there, and on the way back. And we're gonna be trying.
In the background there, your vehicle build. I see some wood back there.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. I'm thinking about live streaming what we're doing for this when I get it all set up. And it is a folding platform bed for the back for the kids and I, and it will fit about a queen bed in there. And I can fold it up. And then when I want to camp for the night and I'm too tired to mess with tents, I can just pull out their car seats and flop that bed down and inflate the mattress, and we're good to go for the night. And I've done some little things inside the interior. I don't have an air conditioner in here when the car isn't running, but I do have some little tricks to keep it hopefully tolerably cool. And I'll be documenting that hopefully along the way for anybody else that wants to get out and do it, because you know, the husband doesn't like to camp, and now the kids want to go do those things, so we're going to go do those things with or without, and this is our adventure. So
absolutely. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll definitely, I mean, you're not going to be completely unhooked, so you know, I'm sure we can talk at some point. We'll, you know, if we don't get any great suggestions or ideas, I mean, we'll definitely come up with something and post it on the page. I know it's been a little sparse there recently. The last couple of weeks has just been brutal for me between, you know, work and getting stuff done. So apologies about the silence, but man, it's just the most I could do to get through my week.
this is just, you know, and it's just summer for us. We have we don't really have a real short growing season, but there is a lot to get done when the weather's nice like this. A lot of projects to get done and get ready for fall. And I know I get caught in the weeds on those a bit, and that's just the way that it goes. So definitely always leave questions, comments, suggestions on the Facebook group or any of the YouTube comments, and we're happy to help. And we always try to answer as quickly as we can.
Absolutely. And then what's yes, go live. I can't keep you said that because StreamYard permissions weren't enabled. So whomever said yes, go live, definitely go live on your trip.
I will definitely make an effort to do that and see what the kids and I are up to. We'll be up at camp, and when we get to Colorado, we're going to actually be out at Cripple Creek, Colorado with Colorado Mountain Man Survival. And I'll be teaching a basket making class for pack baskets, and then a 3-day artisan of plants, plant walk, herbal remedy making class. And so I'll be doing some postings from that. I'll be doing some live stuff,
Cool.
hopefully from there a little bit.
Look forward
It'll
to
be
it.
a lot of fun. Yeah, it's gonna be
look
so
forward
much
to it.
fun.
So
Yeah.
okay. Well, folks,
Okay.
thank you for taking the time to watching. Thank you for participating. Really, because it's just like sitting around talking. It's really a lot of fun. I do enjoy it.
Just to
So,
chit chat.
Yeah. And I hope you folks enjoyed it too. Until next time, please take care, be safe, and always be prepared. Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.